You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the July 18th, 2023 meeting of the Michigan City Common Council. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to the video audience, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting of July 18th, 2023. Everybody, please silence your cell phones or any other electronic devices you may have. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and for a moment of silent prayer. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, take the roll call, please.
Brian Dabney,
Present.
Michael Mack,
Present.
Angie Nelson Deutsch,
Present.
Don Prespolinski,
Present.
Paul Prespolinski,
Present.
Gene Simmons, Dahlia Zegas,
Present.
Tracy Tillman,
Present.
Sean Fitzpatrick.
And Councilman Simmons and Councilman Fitzpatrick both contacted me and have been excused from the meeting. Reports of approval of the last council meeting of July the 5th. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the regular council hybrid Zoom meeting from July 5th.
Support. There's a motion by Councilwoman Deitch and seconded by Councilman Dabney. On the vote.
Dahlia Zegas,
Aye.
Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Tracy Tillman,
Aye.
Brian Dabney,
Aye.
Michael Mack,
Aye.
Angie Nelson Deutsch,
Aye.
Don Prespolinski.
Aye.
That's 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Reports of standing committees. Are there any reports of standing committees this evening?
I got a brief one.
Councilwoman Deitch.
Thank you, Chair. We had our redevelopment commission meeting yesterday, and a couple of just quick updates that wanted to talk about the South Side. I know that we started the South Side sidewalk project for the residents, but we've also we're almost there and receiving ownership of the road in front of Meyer Town Center Road. I can't think of the name of it. So making progress on that. So hopefully the next meeting we'll have a better update on where we're at on taking control of that. So just wanted to give a brief update.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. Any other council members have any reports of standing committees? Having none, moving on. Finance Committee. Anything from the Finance Committee? Councilwoman Tillman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Michigan City Finance Committee meeting was not held today. Going over the Michigan City Riverboat claims docket for July 18, 2023. Riverboat from Fund number 2235, $174,567.50. Riverboat EFT Fund number 2235, $0. Boyd Development EFT Funds 2504, $0. Total claims $174,567.50. Those funds are for LaPorte Chrysler Inc. in the amount of $6,435 and New Tech $168,132.50. the City of Michigan City Riverboat Statement of Cash Positions, fiscal year to date, July 18, 2023, unexpended balance, $6,265,928.14.
That it? Thank
That's
you.
all.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Claims docket. Is there a motion to accept the claims docket and pay the bills? So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Dabney and seconded by Councilwoman Deitch. Madam Clerk, on the vote.
Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Tracy Tillman,
Aye.
Bryant Dabney,
Aye.
Michael Mack,
Aye.
Ms. Deitch,
Aye.
Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
and Ms. Zegas.
Aye.
That's 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Thank you. Reports from boards and commissions. Boards and commissions.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Rodney McCormick, President of the Social Status for African American Males. At the end of every one of your meetings, we've been looking for an appointment to be made to the social status. This has been going on long enough. Mr. President, I hope that we will consider replacing the appointing authority to the Ministerial Alliance, I believe it is. I'm not for sure. We already have 3 ministers that's on there. And for some reason, it just seemed like they can't bring in the person they want. And we shouldn't be held hostage on our board because we can't find someone. I know it's election time. I know people trying to make deals. But the rest of us should not have to suffer behind this. We're doing good things on there. We're doing a lot better than we were. But right now, we're trying to get all our board seats filled. And this is going on almost a year now. And they won't appoint no one. What do we have to do to make this appointment happen? And if I may just make one recommendation, the LaPorte County Council gave us $4,000 to take care of some activities in the city with the kids. We just went to the DeSable Museum over the weekend. We also sponsor 60 more kids in a basketball program. Why don't we just change that and make them one of the appointing authorities, especially after now that we have now opened our board up to any county residents. So I think the county council should have appointments on that board. If you can consider that, this is taking too long. Over a year, it's not fair, and we shouldn't be held hostage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Tommy Klavik, 1316 Ohio Street, Michigan City Fire Merit Commissioner, Common Council appointee. I just want to pass along, if we had our meeting last Monday, we have 49 applicants right now to become members of the Michigan City Fire Department. Our written test and letter claim day is going to be Saturday morning, August 26, 2023 at the Fire Administration Building Training Center on the Boulevard. They're going to ask them to park across the street at the school administration building. There's not enough parking there for 49 people. After that, they're going to have their ladder climb test, and then a couple weeks later, we're going to have the physical agility test over at the training center on Hitchcock Street. So that's all I wanted to pass along right now. I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be my first testing, be a proctor for all that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Klavik.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
I need to add to it.
hold on, Ms. Mullenhour.
The fire merit.
Yeah,
And on the
Tommy,
next,
come back to the speaker.
Hi.
yeah, on the next agenda, well, I'll just add to it. On the next agenda, we will be talking about the merit point system.
Right.
We'll have something on the agenda.
The ordinance changes.
At our last Fire Merit Commission meeting to discuss how we want to change that before this next testing cycle. So you'll see something on the agenda at the next meeting.
And I'll talk about the 40-year-old when we get to it.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Ms. Mullenhour.
Nancy Moldenhar, 107 K Lane. I am the immediate past chair of the Michigan City Sustainability Commission. And I'm here on behalf of Andy Jans Davis, who's our current chair this evening. We announced the winner of our Nora L. Schultz Tribute Sustainability Award. And the person who received that, it's in memory of Patricia, who was known as Pat Mulden in Michigan City. And she was in charge of the sustainability missions at her church. She was a member of the First Presbyterian Church. She was a low-waste chef. She owned her own restaurant called Kelly's Table. She shopped almost exclusively secondhand. She composted. She restricted her vehicle fuel usage. And she also repurposed and or recycled many or most items. So I think she's definitely someone who demonstrates a sustainable life. So we're very proud to give her the award this year. Her daughter and husband were not able to come to our last meeting. So I really want to invite everybody to the next Sustainability Commission meeting. Our regular meeting is going to be on Thursday, August 10th. Which is always the second Thursday of the month at 4:30 p.m. It'll be here at City Hall, and we'll be meeting in the EOC room, which is right across from the chambers here. So everybody's invited. Anybody that knew her, was a member, or is a member of the First Presbyterian Church, or was involved with her in any way in the community, or a friend of hers, then we would please like you to attend this award. I think it's truly deserving. And I'm happy to announce we had many nominations this year, and it was really hard for us to pick the person that was going to receive it. So thank you, Michigan City community.
Yeah, Ms. Mullenauer, what time is the meeting?
It's at 4:30 p.m. Thursday, August 10th, 4:30 p.m., City Hall, EOC room. Thank you.
You.
Can I ask?
Yeah,
Ms.
Councilman Paul
Mullenauer?
Prispalinski has a question for you. Sure. Ms. Mullenauer.
Ms. Mullenauer, I got a question about the, and I asked you before about the chargers on the municipal lot. When you guys plan that, because I know that the redevelopment commission is paying for the bill on these chargers. How did that happen? Why wasn't it planned in such a manner that we had some way to charge the individual, like with a credit card or something for their time?
That's still possible. And right now I'm coordinating the efforts of Drive Clean Indiana with the Redevelopment Commission and also the Planning Department. So hopefully we'll get something worked out on that. I do know that the Parks and Rec Department has been working to get the electric vehicle charger that's next to the old Lighthouse Museum up and running. And it's the same third party that would be involved with all of those electric vehicle chargers. Right now, Drive Clean Indiana is planning for their annual conference and expo, which is happening in August. So they're extremely busy right now. But I do hope to have all those dots connected when all of the involved parties are available. So I'm aware of it. I never was in favor of free charges. So I don't know exactly where the ball got dropped, but I'm doing my best to be sure that it gets taken care of.
Well, let me ask you this follow-up. Who was in charge of that program with your sustainability committee? That's
Drive Clean Indiana. They are the entity. They used to be known as South Shore Clean Cities. And they were involved in getting those electric vehicle chargers to municipalities and also to county governments that wanted those. And also they're the ones that were the mediator behind the project. That's what I can say. The funds came from the Indiana Volkswagen Mitigation Trust Fund in order to get those.
Well, I guess my follow-up is this. Did you run that by anybody, any of the legal staff in City Hall, your committee, to see how this is going to be paid? That's what I'm driving at here, because that's what's going on, free charging. And I think that somebody dropped the ball on your committee.
Okay,
That's what I think. Thank you. I think
Feedback
that should have
taken.
been, I should have been given to the legal staff or the least the city attorney to look over
Okay.
the contract.
feedback taken. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, sir.
No, Ms. Mullenhour? Yeah. I mean, that's a good point, Councilman Purvolinski. And I didn't know that that's what took place, that these chargers are in place, but people can come and charge their electric vehicles up with the city paying for these charges, correct? That's what's going to be happening?
They're already doing it.
We're already doing it. I mean,
I'm not aware of that. I don't think they're working. At least that's what I've heard.
not,
I've heard they're not operational.
Okay.
That's the feedback I've been getting.
okay, all right. Well, if they're not working yet, then who's following up from the city when these things start working and people are going to start using them? And if the city's paying for them, which we're not going to pay for them, I don't think the city should be paying for somebody to get their electric car
Well,
charged up. No, I'm just saying, I don't know what direction you followed or how we got to where we're at, but if it's the sustainability committee, or if it's you go to the city attorney and let Amber know exactly what's been taking place here, or go to the mayor and see what he has to say about it. But to me, this has got to get straightened out. Yeah, I don't think I should be paying for somebody coming from out of state to get their electric car charged up every, in the evening.
no, I agree. I agree with you 100%. Nobody should be getting free charging.
Right,
Nobody,
right.
not out of towners, not
Right.
residents. Nobody should be
Right.
getting free charging. I agree with you.
Okay. So since you were with this project, would you follow through with it to see what's?
I am
Good.
following through to the best of my ability. And as I said, Drive Clean Indiana is up to here right now with getting their annual conference and expo slated for August. They will be available after that. They can come and meet with anybody here in the city to help connect the dots. Okay?
Okay, I'll tell you what, Ms. Mullenhour, myself being a city councilman, being concerned about it, I will step forward and help you try to get the dots connected so we get this problem resolved. Okay, but I would like you to talk to the city attorney, and the mayor's here. He's aware of the issue, that we move forward and get this corrected before these even go into work. Okay,
Okay.
so I will help you.
Councilman Prisbalinski, I genuinely appreciate your offer of assistance.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
And
okay.
I know I can count on you.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks. All right, thank you. Ms. Mullenhour. Okay, any other reports of special or select committees? Having none, reports from mayor or other city officers and departments. And Chief Volker is with us this evening.
Good evening, Chief Steve Walker, Michigan City Police Department. Just wanted to give a quick run back of June. Total calls for service that we responded to was 3,355. Incident reports completed was 420. Total arrests made 180. 163 of those were adults, 17 juvenile. And 55 firearms were seized. A few things that we have coming up here in the near future. We are participating in National Night Out, which is the first Tuesday in August, which this year falls on August 1st. We will be, let's say the Michigan City Police Department hasn't participated in that in several years, since at least 15 years, at least that I can remember. Basically just an event to let the police department connect with the community a little bit. We're going to be hosting it at Pullman Field from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. We'll be starting a bicycle ride We're gonna hop on the Singing Sands Trail and just ride down west over to County Line Road and then back to Pullman Field, where we'll have like basically a little pop-up block party, DJ entertainment, food, some other organizations that have helped us will be out there as well. So just an opportunity for us to get out into the public and, just connect on a more of a personal level. Again, we'll be, if you register online, there was a flyer news release that went out last week. It's on our Facebook page. For the opportunity, we're giving away some bicycles as well to some young individuals, different age groups. So again, that's August 1st at Pullman Field, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. We sent out a news release. It's been 2 weeks for a camera registry. This, again, does not allow Michigan City Police Department access to your cameras. It just says, hey, we have cameras in this neighborhood. So if an incident popped up, we have contact information maybe for an individual that may have, video surveillance. Obviously, those Ring doorbell cameras, video home surveillance cameras, those things are more readily available than they have been in the past. This gives individuals an opportunity just to register that with us. And again, it doesn't give us access. It just gives us contact information. And it says, hey, I have cameras here. It helps us help you protect your neighborhood. So if there's an incident or something that happened, gives us a point of contact. Instead of us knocking at your door and saying, hey, the police are here, can we take a look at your video cameras? We can send you a private message and say, hey, we see that you registered your cameras. There was an incident that occurred. We want to help you, solve these issues in the neighborhood. So again, again, if they look on our Facebook or Instagram page, there's a flyer called the Camera Registry, MCPD Camera Registry. We'll share that again this week with just a QR code. You can scan it. It's real simple. It takes 5 minutes to do. And then, like the fire department will be hosting a testing in August. Our testing date will be August 19th. We've partnered with Goodwill and the Northwest Indiana Ministers Conference to do study sessions and prep sessions for that applicant testing. So to prepare for the written exam and the physical agility portion of those testings. So again, if you follow our social media, you can see links for those RSVPs for those study sessions. We're offering them basically every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Again, with Goodwill and the Northwest Indiana Ministers Conference. So again, just to help people prepare, we generally see a lot of applicants, probably almost half, either wash out in the written test and or in the physical agility test. So just trying to do our part with our community partners to just help, get a better applicant pool and help them prepare for those tests that day. So again, that's August 19th. Obviously, throw it out there that with the assistance of the city council, we're offering a $7,000 bonus for new employees for the year. So again, we're looking for qualified applicants. If you have any interest in that, you can check out our webpage at joinmcpd.com. So thank you.
Councilman Dabney?
Yeah. Only if you have the information now. If not, I'd ask that you give us an update for the next council meeting regards to the flock system, where we stand with the cameras and the public portal that is supposed to be implemented at some point. If you have that information now, you go ahead and talk about it. If not, then could you please provide that for us at the next meeting?
Yeah, so the flock cameras are all installed. Those are operational, have been effective in several investigations already. The Raven shot detection, we ran into some permitting issues with NIPSCO. So we've gone a different route and just doing self-permitting. So the city planner is already working with us to get those permits done. They're supposed to break ground, I think it's July 31st on those. So that stuff should be in here within the next month. So the portal, I know that you're talking about the transparency portal.
Right.
We did meet with them last week regarding that. So that should be up soon. And once we get it live, we'll send that out to social media and to the news and everyone as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's going to be important for the public to be able to go and see.
Yep.
What's going on.
Yeah, how we're using them and how they're how they're effective. So
thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions from council members or the chief? Thank you, chief. Any other reports from the mayor, city officers, or department heads? Moving on. Communications. Madam Clerk, any communications?
We skipped over the petitions. but-
Pardon?
We skipped over the petitions, but just so you know, there's
Oh,
no
so skip over the
petitions this
petitions?
evening.
Oh, okay. It was way down on the bottom. That's why I did.
Mhm.
Are there any petitions?
There are no petitions this evening.
Okay,
There
thank
is-
you.
There is correspondence.
Took care of that.
Correspondence was received in the clerk's office on July 6, 2023 from Leslie Sade, SHAD, sorry if I messed that up, asking to make the trees a priority in Michigan City. And that's,
Okay, Madam Clerk, are there any resolutions before us this evening?
yes.
Or our first resolution?
A resolution by title only, amending resolution number 4827, authorizing petty cash and cash change funds to change name of custodian for golf department from director of golf to golf manager. And this is introduced by Bryant Dabney.
And does the author have anything he'd like to add at this time?
No, just real simple. Just changing the name of the person that's able to operate the petty cash fund from director of golf to golf manager. Just a simple change.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this resolution? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this resolution? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this resolution? Having none, public comment is closed. Any further comment by council members?
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's been a motion by Councilman Dabney and second by Councilman Mack. Madam Clerk, on the vote, please.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Mack,
Aye.
Ms. Deitch,
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Zegas,
Aye.
and Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Aye.
That's 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Under ordinances, our first ordinance this evening, on first reading by title only.
An ordinance on first reading by title only, amending section 54-1532 and section 70-103A of the Michigan City Municipal Code to comply with Senate Enrolled Act 185, which increases the maximum age of applicants to the fire department to under the age of 40 years old. And this is introduced by Angie Nelson Deitch.
And does the author have anything she'd like to add at this time?
Yes, this is just increasing the age based on the Senate, legislation from the General Assembly downstate to increase the maximum age of applicants to 40. And we know we have testing coming up this cycle, so we want to get this done.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Madam Councilman. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this ordinance?
Yes, Tommy Kolovic, 1316 Ohio Street. There are 2 applicants that are over the age of 35, between 35 and 20. Right now, the cutoff's 35. The state law did take effect July 1st. So even if the amendment, we're going to pass it on third reading at the next meeting, potentially. So, the state law does take precedence over the year, so we can accept those 2 applicants. That's all I just wanted to mention.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no 18-year-olds. They got to be 21 to apply for the fire department. That's all state mandated by PERF, and so we would need to. That's one issue they want to bring up. They want to start taking 18, and we can't take 18. You got to be 21. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance?
People need this.
Public portion is closed. Anyone else from the council wish to speak on this ordinance? Councilman Paul Prespolinski.
I think that the comments that Mr. Kalal made on the age process is that in the near term, we need to work on our legislators to change this, because I think that people getting out of high school if they can sign up for the draft, they're mandated to sign up when you're 18, or you can go work in a dangerous environment such as a steel mill or any other mills at the age of 18. I don't see what we should be working on bringing this age down so we get long-term career people in here. And we can start cultivating this through our process of training people in a vocational setting. Thank you.
Councilwoman Deitch?
Yes, and I can add to that. And we discussed that because we talked about the fire science and EMT program at AK Smith and how we could probably utilize some of those graduates to apply for the fire department. So I think that's a discussion we'll have sometime in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other council comments? Having none, this ordinance will be held over for a second reading at our next council meeting. Ms. Clerk, Madam Clerk, our next ordinance on first reading by title only.
An ordinance on first reading by title only, creating section 46-38 and section 50-269 in the Michigan City Municipal Code to prohibit the use of compression release engine brakes, jack brakes, in city limits. And this is introduced by Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
And does the author have anything you'd like to add at this time?
Yes, I would like to, I've been asked by the legal department to table this for, I'm going to ask for 2 more meetings. They want to get some more things clarified on this ordinance.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, there's a motion to table. And is there a second?
Support.
Okay, Paul made the motion, you second. Okay. There's been a motion and a second to table this ordinance on first reading for 2 more meetings. Madam Clerk, on the vote.
Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
Mr. Mack?
Aye.
Ms. Deitch?
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
Ms. Zegas?
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Aye.
And Ms. Tillman?
Aye.
That's 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, thank you. Our next meeting, our next ordinance on first reading by title only, Madam Clerk.
Sorry. An ordinance on first reading by title only, amending the zoning map of the city of Michigan City, LaPorte County, Indiana, to rezone property owned by DSM 124 LLC from R3B to CBD1. And this is introduced by Mr. Dabney.
And does the author have anything he'd like to add?
Yeah, this is a simple rezoning of a property. It used to be the old Greyhound building right there on the corner of the road there. And this came through the Planning Commission with a favorable recommendation, unanimous favorable recommendation. And I wanted to try to suspend the rules and get all 3 readings done tonight because there was a formal public hearing at the Planning Commission. And I had the attorneys research that and said we can do that based upon the fact that there was a formal public hearing at the Planning Commission meeting. So.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, there's been a motion. Is there a second? Have all 3
I'll
readings
second
this
it.
evening?
I'll second it.
Okay. There's been a motion and a second to have all 3 readings this evening. Madam Clerk, on the vote.
Great. Give me 1 second. Mr. Mack?
Aye.
Ms. Deitch?
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
Ms. Zegas?
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Aye.
Ms. Tillman?
Aye.
Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
That's 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, with that being said, is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak for or against this ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public?
On, when you you need to announce on the second reading and third reading for the record.
Right.
Right, he's.
Okay,
Going through the.
I know that. I'm just making that point.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir. Okay, any public comment is closed on the first reading? Any further council comment? Any further council comment? Okay, Madam Clerk, on second reading by title only.
An ordinance on second reading by title only, amending the zoning map of the city of Michigan City, LaPorte County, Indiana, to rezone property owned by DSM 124 LLC from R3B to CBD1. And this is introduced by Mr. Dabney.
And does the author have anything he'd like to add at this time? Okay, any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public on this ordinance? Having none, public comment portion is closed. Any comments from the council members? Councilwoman Deitch?
I do have a question. In the planning commission meeting, did they talk about what they were gonna do with this property or anything?
Yes, they did. The building has apartments on the top, and then on the bottom section, there would be retail space that would be available. So the rezoning would basically mirror what's going to be happening down at the train station, the way that's going to be set up as well.
Any other questions from council members? Okay, having none, Madam Clerk, on third reading by title only.
Sorry, I had a question. An ordinance on third reading by title only, amending the zoning map of the city of Michigan City, LaPorte County, Indiana, to rezone property owned by DSM 124 LLC from R3B to CBD1, and this is introduced by Mr. Dabney.
Are there any further comments from the author?
None.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public on this ordinance? Any comments from the public? Having none, public discussion is closed. Any further council comments? Councilman Paul Przybylski.
On this particular project, how tall is that building gonna be? Is that gonna be apartments on the very top? And or public space on top?
Councilman Dabney, go ahead if you
If
can
it's-
answer that.
As I recall, it's just a 2-story building there where there are already apartments on top. And there's rezoning in order to be able to have a mixed use building there on the corner. So it's, as of right now, I think their apartments are right now on the second floor of that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further comments by council members?
Move for
Councilwoman
adopt-
Deitch.
Move for adoption.
Support.
Motion to approve by Councilwoman Deitch and Councilwoman Zegas. Who seconded it? Did you second it, Tracy? Okay, I didn't hear it. Okay, seconded by Councilwoman Tracy Tillman. Madam Clerk, on the vote, please.
Ms. Deitch,
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Zegas,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
and Mr. Mack.
Aye.
That's 7 in favor and 0 opposed, passed.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Our next ordinance on first reading by title only.
An ordinance on first reading by title only, an ordinance creating section 86-6.5 in chapter 86, article 1 of the Michigan City Municipal Code to establish a fund for specific maintenance and repair of brick streets within the city of Michigan City, Indiana. and this is introduced by Ms. Deitch.
And does the author have anything she'd like to add at this time?
Just a couple of meetings ago, 2 meetings ago to be exact, I discussed that I will be bringing this forth at the last council meeting to make sure that all streets within these districts are available for any funding.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this ordinance?
I want to, Kathy Stransky, 223 East Barker Ave. I want to thank everybody that's supported these brick streets. They are beautiful. They are a part of our history. And I'm glad to see that we're preserving them for future generations. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Any council members wish to speak on this ordinance? Councilman Paul Przybylski.
As being the original author and author of a previous legislation on brick streets, I'd like to be a co-sponsor on this. Please,
You'd like to what?
be a co-sponsor.
Okay. Could you add Councilman Paul Przybylski as a co-sponsor and also add myself as a co-sponsor?
And Mr. President, I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor as well.
And add Mr. Councilman Dabney. Anyone else? Okay. Yeah, and I would just like to add in as far as brick streets, and I know that we've had a lot of debate over brick streets and not so much about the elimination of brick streets in Michigan City, because I also think that they have a lot of heritage and it gives a lot of character to the neighborhoods. Not a lot of cities that you can go into and you can actually write down a brick street, knowing that that street has probably been there, I don't know, possibly 100 years, give or take a few years. Yeah, and if you look at it like this, and that's the way I kind of look at this, is the your rate of return on a brick street versus an asphalt street. So you look at brick streets, you don't see brick streets being repaired, maybe even, I don't know, half as often as a blacktop street. I know I've lived on Gardena Street for 30 some years. It's been blacktopped once. And I know people that lived on brick streets, and those streets have never been redone. Not to say that some work doesn't need to be done to it, but the overall condition of the street doesn't fall apart as fast as a blacktop street. And I know there's been discussions in the past that some people say, just blacktop, forget about it. Why even worry about this stuff? But to me, there's more to it than just blacktopping something and covering it up. Like I said, you have the heritage to it, you have the character of it, and you also have the rate of return that you get on these brick streets. So I think with a little love and tending care to where these streets are located, take, for example, and I'm going to use it, York Street, going from Homer down to 11th Street. That street needs, the street itself from curb to curb is not all that bad. What's bad about that street are the shoulders of the street need work to be corrected, and the intersections of these streets where, okay, you got a brick street, and then you have a cross street. Well, that cross street is blacktop. So the blacktop goes across the intersection and it causes a big bump as you're going down. And to me, every time I go down York Street, that makes no sense of why that can't be corrected. I don't know what the big engineering feat is to scrape blacktop off of a brick street and then make it smooth again, or maybe redo the intersection and be done with it. maybe that's the first place we can start with this $200,000 is start on those intersections and make York Street a presentable street, which it should be. Okay. So since the engineer is here, and I know he's writing down something, hopefully he's writing down when I'm discussing and we can get that taken care of. All right, moving along. Any other comments from council members? Councilman Prispolinski?
I would just like to add to some things that you said, in that there is a way to pop that asphalt off, but you have to have it has to be done in August. Matter of fact, as history precedes us and speaks for itself, it was done on Charles Street, because Charles Street was the original street paved by a mayor that brought this uproar about brick streets in Michigan City. And that street was peeled. The asphalt was actually peeled off of the bricks, the whole, and it did not pull one brick out of being keyed in. It is doable, but you got to have the weather conditions have to be right to do that. And I will say that at the time, the engineer was Boyd Phelps. He made a workbook. We cannot find the workbook now. He brought a gentleman in from Iowa to do this workbook on street layout, street repair, and the whole ball of wax. And I tell you, it was a very learning experience. And I'm very disappointed that we could not or cannot find that workbook. I saw the workbook. I know it existed. And the gentleman from Iowa was paid with barter with bricks for his contributions to the city of Michigan City. And Councilman Don Prispolinski, you are correct that the streets in Michigan City are 100 years old, and it's a very high return on your product, on your what we have there. And you're also correct in that the brick streets don't need a lot of repair. They do need repairing when you do any kind of sewer work, and that's why those intersections are paved over on York Street, and that is from a previous superintendent at the sanitary district, Mr. McCarty. All right, that information. And also that there was an intersection rebuilt on Ripley Street and Buffalo. That whole intersection was asphalt at one time, and they rekeyed it and relayed that. I believe Woodruff did that action, but these things can be done. And my whole intent was that we come up with a program with a repair strategy for these streets, just like with sidewalks. And I hope that we get to that, so there's no big debate about it. I know there's always going to be a debate about it, but I think, Don, you hit the nail on the head with the return for your product or your investment. You get a heck of a return on them brick streets. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from council members? Having none, this ordinance will be held over for a second reading at our next council meeting. Madam Clerk, our next ordinance on first reading by title only.
An ordinance on first reading by title only. An ordinance amending section 86-8 and chapter 86, article 1 of the Michigan City Municipal Code, the Permanent Sidewalk Fund and Program for Sidewalk Repairs for the city of Michigan City, Indiana. And this is introduced by Ms. Deitch.
And does the author have anything she'd like to add?
Same explanation from 2 meetings ago. I said that I would be bringing forth this amendment.
Yeah. Public comment? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance?
Rodney McCormick, 617 Union Street. In this fund, would you have money not just to repair the sidewalks, but to get equipment to remove the snow off these sidewalks that we having so much of a problem with doing? I brought it up for the first time about 10 years ago, and I just still don't see too much happening. I mean, we keep building sidewalks, but we got to maintain them as well. And we got grass overgrown on a lot of the sidewalks, trip hazards going on, trees uprooting the concrete. We got to pay attention to what's going on, and maybe get some kind of committee together to go out and make a map of all the troubled sidewalks. Paul came to my home, and we just went one street over and seeing how the tree is literally lifting all the way up right out of the ground. So put some consideration in that, because I don't know who we've been promised snow equipment for the longest, and it hasn't happened. So thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I actually wasn't going to speak on this topic, but my name is Sheree Wilson. I'm at 1030 Liberty Trail, and something I'd like to bring to the attention of the council along with this sidewalk repair fund. I'd like to have focus also put on ADA ramps at the intersections. There's still some areas in our city that are lacking ADA ramps that are part of our sidewalk system. And that's something that if it was actually on a public highway type system, such as Highway 2 going through LaPorte, it would have been addressed through the federal highway system. But since this is on, some of our side roads and things like that, and I'll give an example. Over in the 3rd Ward, over by Park School, I was just there this past weekend for a wedding. We still have some sidewalks over in that area that are not handicap accessible, and I was with a handicapped individual from our community. And so, so I'd like to see some focus, if that's possible, with this. And maybe that's something else, another ordinance, but to have a focus on also providing handicap accessibility with the debilits as well, for not just our wheelchair and walker population, but also our blind population as well.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wilson. Very good points.
Yeah, Tommy Kolovic, 1316 Ohio Street. NICD needs to get off their butts and fill in the corners of the sidewalks of the northwest and the northeast corner, 11th and Ohio Street. They were supposed to have all this done by May. They keep moving up, those need to be done. They've all done all the underground work. They need to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kolovic. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Having none. Council comments, Councilwoman Tillman.
Two things. One, Ms. Dudley, if you could add me as a co-sponsor. And in regards to the comment by Ms. Wilson, as far as the 5th Ward goes, that is something that I have submitted. And as you can see, there's been a lot of work regarding sidewalks and street repairs going on. And one of the main concerns was there were unfinished ADA accessibilities on a lot of the intersections, and those are and have been turned in. And as I still come across those are getting turned into the engineer as well.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Paul Prispolinski.
I would also, as a previous ordinance, as the original sponsor of this legislation, I would like to be added as co-sponsor on this one. And also with the comments that were made by Councilwoman Tillman, that we definitely need to look at this issue of sidewalks throughout the city. And I think that we need a sidewalk plan laid out for the city, because it definitely can use more than $100,000. And this is just for existing sidewalks. There's areas that need sidewalks. And I'm going to say something. I'm not trying to ruffle anybody's feathers is that are in the TIF zones. And yes, there's being work done in the TIF zones after all these years, but it relies on this. This is how it comes to be. Bad planning. All right, no sidewalks on the south end of town. Bad planning. This has been our problem in this community for many, many years. And I'm not taking aim at our city planner. This has been going on. This has been a habitual problem in our community. And as to be true to yourself, you have to admit when you're wrong. And I'm just saying, to be an advocate for everything, we need to look at what we've done and fix it, because it was not correct. And I'm not trying to blame anyone, but we need to get aggressive on these sidewalks. There are neighborhoods, and I'm going to give you one. Buffalo Street. They have no sidewalks going all the way down Buffalo Street to the C&O tracks. But after C&O, there's some, but on one side of the street. You have all these streets that have one side has a sidewalk. And I was looking at them today going down Barker Ave. They did Barker Ave, and they don't have a crosswalk to go to the north side of Barker Ave. But if you're walking east or west, you're okay. But if you have to go across the street, you don't have a corner to negotiate. I'm looking at this and I'm going, yeah, we need to create something, an ad hoc committee to start looking at this. Thank you.
Councilman Dabney?
Yeah, I want to be added as a co-sponsor to this as well. And also there have been some sidewalk repairs going on where they have been doing that to the corners of the road there to make it ADA accessible to be able to walk on those corners and that. And I forgot what they called the little things on the end that let you know, or let somebody that's blind that's walking down the street to know that the street.
They call that a bubble pad.
Yeah, I have seen that happening over there on Hobart and Fur right now, where they're repairing some sidewalks over there. So I would imagine they're doing it around the restaurant, some of the other streets as well around town. So.
Any other comments? Councilman Mack?
And I don't know the exact streets, but the Third Ward is getting quite a few sidewalks and streets repaired under the rotation of the community grant and the community crossing grant. So quite a bit of that is being done. Next.
Okay, and Councilwoman Deitch?
Yeah, and just I thought we approved money for snow removal for sidewalks.
We did. We bought the equipment.
Okay, but have we used it? Oh, okay. I'm just
no, we just got it in this year.
Okay, I thought so. Okay, just making sure. And then just to add to that, we talk about a plan. This is a great opportunity to use some engineering interns to do a lot of work for a little bit less under the tutelage of engineering firms that are here local. My first internship was with a utility company, and all I did was ride around and look at damaged poles and made, decent amount of money, but not how much we get charged from engineering firms. But I still had it was a good project, and it's something that I think we could do. Start using them for sidewalks and going out and evaluating and looking at our sidewalks. They can also look at the inventory of these refuse totes that are expensive that we seem to can't control how many have anywhere up to 7 totes. So I think we can use, a little bit of all of that, and that just takes some planning, but I think we could use, the Work One and some of those organizations to do it. So good comments from the public. Thank you.
Any other comments by council people? I have a comment on this ordinance and sidewalk repair in general, just in relationship to the ADA accessible pads. I started on this project, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And my focus was from Cool Spring Ave down to 11th Street. So I was involved with Haas and Associates, and we took care of that section of Franklin Street. And then being a liaison to the Human Rights Commission, that, I saw the need in the downtown area. There are no bubble pads at the crosswalks. Most of the crosswalks have the slant on them, but they don't have the ADA pads. And so I brought that to the attention of Schuyler, York, city planner, and next spring when they this fall, when they redo Franklin Street downtown area, those pads are going to be included in there. So the downtown area will be covered in that respect. But in respect to sidewalks, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, Mr. Minnick, is that if the sidewalk is in conjunction with the community crossings grant, and it's in conjunction with the streets that are be done in that area, then the sidewalk will be included in that. But if there's no money in the sidewalk fund, then any sidewalks, take for example on Gardena Street, 3 years ago, I went out and surveyed all the sidewalks that go from Franklin down to Gardena Park and then Greenwood Ave, looked at all those, and on Superior Street, handed them all in. Well, none of those sidewalks are going to get done now. Okay, I have to wait till next year because there's no money in the sidewalk fund. If there would have been blacktop going down on Gardena Street, then these sidewalks would have been done. So to me, I understand the process. Doesn't make a lot of sense. If you got a whole list of sidewalks that need to be done, sooner or later, you got to start putting money towards this stuff and get it done. So I commend you, Councilwoman Deitch, for bringing this back, even after it was vetoed in a different form. But you brought it back, and we'll get this done and make our city start making it look good, and the neighborhood's looking good. Okay, with that being done, that being said, move on to our next ordinance on first reading. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance on first reading by title only, approving additional appropriation in the budget of the engineer department of the general fund for on-call engineering services with Haas and Associates for the remainder of 2023. And this is introduced by Ms. Deitch.
And does the author have anything that she'd like to add at this time?
Sure, and we do have the controller's office. This is for additional on-call services. I know that I do have a question. It just, I don't know if we've increased the salary for engineering, for the engineer for next year in the budget, but I hope the administration shares that with us. And I don't think there's been any more postings for any engineer position. So this is hopefully to get us through the end of the year for on-call services.
Is that a question?
I'll answer it.
It is a question for public comment.
Yeah, could we have a answer to that, City Controller? Yvonne?
Right, but we haven't been able to hire an engineer, even part-time, and I don't know if we raised the salary or if we're going to raise. I'm just curious if we are. If you have an answer, great, but.
Yeah, we're looking to raise that. We don't have an exact number yet. We just started working on the budgets.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Any public comment? Any public comment on this ordinance?
Brad Minnick, Haas and Associates. I just wanted to offer to answer any questions that might come up, or I'll be back for the next readings as well.
Okay, does anybody have any questions of Mr. Minnick? Councilman Paul Przybylski?
I just wanted, since Brad's here, Mr. Kovalik, I talked to Brad about the corners on 11th Street and the crossings on 11th Street. And I was looking at them today. I'm going to give you a call tomorrow because let's just say, ask you this, where are they at? Did they get back with you? And I know that they have a plan, but they can change that plan, can't they? The way I'm looking at it, they didn't even mold the corners when they put the outer rim or whatever, I don't know the technical term, the outer brace, the outer wall, the whatever you want to call it, for the sidewalk while they're putting that corner in, and it doesn't look wide enough, number one, but they don't even have the corners. I thought when you put a handicap corner in or anything, there's not supposed to be any jagged outcroppings around that area. And that corner coming on 11th facing north and south, they're butted off. They're flat. They are butted off. And I mean, even a normal person could fall and, get a serious head wound on something like that. And that's what I thought the handicap whole thing was about, is having a conformed entrance and egress and egress on a crosswalk. Am I somewhat, I don't have all the technical terminology, Brad, so I apologize for that.
No, your assessment's correct. So, at my request, WSP that's doing the construction inspection for the NICD Double Track project inventoried all the Michigan City ADA ramps, and they found approximately 30% of them to be non-compliant, and they're removing those, and they're down to approximately 12. The last update I got from them was this past Friday. They've got 12 more that they need to repair before they've got them all in compliance.
With a follow-up to that, if I may, do you sign off of that? Does anybody in the city sign off of that? Does the Board of Works sign off of that when we have a discrepancy?
So I have their inventory report available, and I'll get another report when they're all compliant. So that'll be available.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Brad. I'm working on it for you, Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy Kolovic, 1316 Ohio Street, the northwest corner and the northeast corner of 11th and Ohio that I'm referring. That's not in the second ward. That's in the third ward. That's in Councilman Michael Mack's ward. I'd like you to look into that and get back. That needs to be done. I own property there. I had to get my mower up there to mow the grass. I'm a stickler when it comes to mowing my grass. I have my riding mower. I had to really struggle to get my riding mower. Somebody in a wheelchair can't cross there. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Klavik. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Having none, any more council comments?
I'd like to be added to this ordinance, please.
Please add Councilwoman Zegis as a co-sponsor. Any other council comments? Okay, I just have a question for Mr. Minnick. Yeah, so getting back to Councilman Paul Przybylski's question, that when the NICD company, engineering company, or who's ever doing their 30 things that they got to get corrected, and then they give it back to you and say, hey, these things are done. Okay, however that works. Then does somebody from the city go out and visually inspect these things to make sure they're done the way they say they're done? They're supposed to be done?
Yeah, I've been
just accept the report and say, okay, they're done.
No, I've been working with the inspection department to go through and review the work completed to date and also generate punch list for the project.
Okay. So the inspection department goes out and checks all these items, these 30 items that are supposed to be corrected. Now it's down to 12. So did the inspection department go out and check 18 items and say that they're okay?
We haven't went through the,
Okay.
because they haven't completed the repairs. So rather than go out twice, we're waiting until the repairs are completed and then go out and inspect them.
Okay. I thought you said there were 30 and then there were 18 done.
No, they're dwindling down the list, but they're not complete with it yet.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. But I mean, the inspection department's going to go out and make sure that they're done properly.
Either the inspection department or the engineering department. We work together.
Okay. But somebody's going to go out and visually check them.
Correct.
Make sure that they're done
Yes.
properly.
Yes.
Okay. And like those two signs that I brought up like 6 months ago, Washington and
11th. Yeah.
Wabash and 11th were the street signs, you know, the Washington Street, 11th Street.
Right.
They're sticking 5 feet out into the intersection. We talked about.
Yep. And
I
I
might want to move them back before the snowplow knocks them over.
and I brought that up with Nick D and their inspection staff,
Okay.
and they want to get the rest of the signs in before they relocated those, rather than move them twice.
Okay. All right.
So
Just quickly.
Go ahead, Mr. York.
I'll be very brief. So typically, so this work is in the right of way, so it's the purview of the city engineer. We work hand in hand together. Typically, I'll get something from you or the public, and I'll send it off to Brad, and Brad will go inspect it. You made the request at Board of Works. Brad theoretically works for the Board of Works, and basically, so like we were doing a subdivision, accepting new roads. Brad would review that before we would actually accept that as, yeah, this is built correctly. So it kind of works the same way as that. Think about it that way.
Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen. No more further questions or comments by the council. This ordinance will be held over to our next council meeting for second reading. Moving on to our next ordinance on first reading. Ms. Clerk.
An ordinance on first reading by title only, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Michigan City, Indiana, authorizing the City of Michigan City, Indiana, to issue one or more series of its taxable economic development lease rental revenue bonds and approving and authorizing other actions in respect thereto. And this is introduced by Ms. Deitch, Ms. Tillman, and Mr. Dabney.
And do the authors have anything they'd like to add at this time?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Councilwoman Deitch.
So it's on first reading, but it authorizes the City of Michigan City to issue an economic development lease rental revenue bond to be used for the purpose. And this is for constructing the 500+ space parking garage in a 12-story mixed-use building at the former Nick D station block. The RDC, the Redevelopment Commission, we've negotiated a development agreement for the parking garage and mixed-use building with developer Flaherty and Collins. And this bond will be used to provide the gap financing for the project, and the bond will be paid for by the TIF proceeds. And at the next council meeting in August, we will have Brian Prince, David Flaherty, Brandon Bogan from Flaherty and Collins here present at the council meeting. And our bond counsel, Randy Rampola and Andy Mauser, will be here, as well as our RDC Development Agreement Counsel, Adam Collins. So next meeting, they'll be here to answer any questions, to discuss the project, and probably do the dog and pony show. So as an FYI, but this is related to those bonds.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Councilperson. Any other comments from the authors? Any other comments from the authors? Having none. Any public comment? Any public comment? Any public comment? Having none, public comment is closed. Any further council comment? Councilwoman Zegas?
Yes, I'd like to be added to this ordinance as well. Thank you.
And Madam Clerk, please add Councilwoman Zegas. Any further council comment? All right, this ordinance will be held over for second reading.
Oh, that's all right.
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul. Go ahead, Councilman Purbalinski.
I was gonna ask if we could set up a workshop on this either before the meeting so we can have things and we can have more than 3 minutes to talk about it.
I will follow up and see if we can do that prior to the council meeting on that,
All right.
that day.
All right.
Well,
Thank you.
Okay, this ordinance will be held over for second reading at our next council meeting. Madam Clerk, our first ordinance on second reading by title only.
An ordinance on second reading by title only, amending ordinance number 4650, commonly known as the 2023 salary ordinance to create the position of social worker. And this is introduced by Ms. Deitch.
And does the author have anything she'd like to add at this time?
yes, this
Councilwoman
was,
Deitch?
yes, this was to make sure that we had it in the ordinance. This is a position that was created through a grant that we received to have a social worker within the Michigan City Police Department. After a public comment, I'll ask for this to go to third reading.
Okay, moving on to public comment. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Having none, there was a motion to have third reading on this tonight. Is there a second?
I move to third reading.
Second.
Okay, Councilwoman Deitch made the motion for third reading, and Councilman Paul Pryzbylewski second the motion. On the vote?
Mr. Don Pryzbylewski,
Aye.
Ms. Zegas,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Pryzbylewski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Mack,
Aye.
Ms. Deitch.
Aye.
That's 7 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. On third reading by title only.
On third reading by title only, amending ordinance number 4650, commonly known as the 2023 salary ordinance to create the position of social worker. And this is introduced by Ms. Deitch.
And does the author have anything that she'd like to say?
Yeah, just to add that the social worker, we've had her for about a month now. I know Chief is in here and she's jumped in. She's become a member of the crisis intervention team, which is through the drug-free partnership. So she's become active already right out the gate. So it's a good addition.
Okay. Public comment. Is there anyone here from the public that wishes to speak on this ordinance? Anyone here from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Having none, is there council comments?
I move for adoption.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilwoman Deitch and seconded by Councilperson Paul Pryzbylewski. Madam Clerk, on the vote.
Ms. Zegas,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Pryzbylewski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Mack,
Aye.
Ms. Deitch,
Aye.
Mr. Don Pryzbylewski.
Aye.
That is 7 in favor and 0 opposed. It passed.
Hi, Madam Clerk. Our last ordinance on second reading by title only.
An ordinance on second reading by title only, approving additional appropriation in the budget of the local income tax lit fund for contractual services for necessary tree removals. And this is introduced by Mr. Paul Pryzbylewski.
And does the author have anything you'd like to add?
The only thing I would add is that this is a needed expenditure. There are a lot of trees and that are in the status of dangerous in the community. And we can't move it to third because we got to have a formal public hearing on August 1st. So I'm trying to, we're working on it, Sean.
All right, thank you, Mr. Councilman. Public comment? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance?
Hi, Ernie Hollahan, 302 Gladys Street, Michigan City. I had issues with trees over by my rental on Emma Street here a while back, and the tree board did come out and inspect the trees in that yard, and they did take 2 of them down because they were a hazard of falling into my property. Well, lo and behold, there's a couple of more now that's died off, and the whole tops are completely dead, like the others were. So I don't know if I need to call a tree board on that, or it's on private property. Will this cover private property? That's the one issue I have. It creates a hazard to my property.
Yeah, Councilman Pervolinski, do you want to say something?
I believe that you can, the tree board and the city engineer or the acting engineer can deem those dangerous and order the property owner to take them down, or they can take them down according to the ordinance.
So you have a tree board.
I would talk to the street department first, and if there's any further problems, that talk to the city engineer. The city engineer has a lot of power through the state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and if I may comment on that real quick, because after this ordinance came up, I got a hold of Sean, because, after things are brought to your attention, then it kind of highlights, what you're looking at when you're driving around. And I saw some trees that were in bad shape, and got a hold of Sean Smith, street superintendent. Because I don't know if he's the acting arborist now, but he has the control of what trees can be trimmed, cut. But if, in his mind, if he deems it a public hazard where it can hurt somebody, then Sean will say, we'll trim it, we'll cut it down, what have you. Because I know that there's a tree in my neighborhood that is completely, there's not a leaf on it, but the limbs are hanging over the sidewalk. And it's actually the sidewalk comes, and then the sidewalk swerves out because nobody wanted to mess with the tree when they were putting the sidewalk in. So now the tree's dead, probably from the roots being cut when they put the sidewalk in. So that tree's coming down. So my point is, Ernie, get a hold of Sean Smith from the street department and let him come and look at it. Okay, public comment?
Yeah, Tommy Kolavic, 1316 Ohio Street. I was a little boy. My grandpa Watts in Arkansas taught me a long time ago, if you want your tree to grow nice and big and healthy, just drive a copper nail into the trunk of it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other public comment on this ordinance?
Laura Henderson, 510 East 9th Street, also a member of the tree board. And I'd actually like to read something that another member of the tree board was not able to be here, but she had this to say: I'm sorry not to be able to attend tonight's council meeting. The previous meeting was adjourned early before this item was addressed. I certainly don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. As a member of the tree board, I am pleased that more funds could be provided. However, I am deeply concerned that the funds are designated only for tree removal. What we need is more funding for tree planting and tree maintenance. Our city has lost vast amounts of its tree canopy with very little replenishment. More trees mean more shade, helping to reduce temperatures. This cooling impact can help alleviate the urban heat island effect and even reduce electric bills related to cooling. I ask you to please consider adjusting the additional funds to balance the tree removal that is already occurring and to slot these funds for caring for our existing trees and planting more trees. Thank you. I would also like to add, obviously, if a tree is dangerous to public safety, it may have to come down. But these trees need to be carefully evaluated by a qualified person. And if the safety issue can be resolved with pruning, that should take precedence over removal of the entire tree. And that is why I have a problem with the way this is titled, that it's only for removal of trees. I think it should also be for care of trees, pruning as necessary, and of course, removal as necessary, and hopefully for additional planting of trees. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson.
Rodney McCormick, 617 Union Street. Thank you, Paul, for bringing this to the light. Yeah, I go right back to Cook Street, right across the street from my house. Sidewalk it's a hazard. And then we have a whole tree that's leaning over my neighbor's Mark Hudson house or porch. That's gonna fall any day. Some of us love trees. Some of us want to have trees everywhere. But as we know, as we get older, trees become a nuisance to a lot of people when the trees are dying. This is not against anything, but this is only making the neighborhood safer and better. And that's what we need to do. Before we plant any trees, we need to have make sure that we're doing the right thing when we put those certain trees in certain areas. Right now, we have a lot of problems in our city with these trees. We have residents who are on fixed incomes that need help. I think this is a great idea. Keep pushing forward. Thank you again, Paul. Thanks.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak on this ordinance? Any council comment?
No.
Councilman Tracy Tillman?
Yes, Ms. Dudley, if you could please add me as a co-sponsor.
Yeah, add Councilwoman Tracy Tillman as a co-sponsor. You can also add myself, Councilman Don Przybylski as a co-sponsor. Councilman Paul Przybylski, do you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell the public that I guess you could say I'm a tree hugger, and but we have a problem here in our community with bad planting, and it relates to this item also, that trees have been planted on top of people's laterals and causing problems to them, and haphazardly these the legislation that we passed not a couple meetings ago on lateral repair is caused by trees planted too close to their laterals, and the trees eventually bust into them laterals and cause a problem. But I also agree that we do need to plant more trees, and this is a big issue. The whole big issue is that a lot of these sewer projects need to get done so that the lines are put in the alleys and that the laterals are identified and the trees aren't planted around those laterals. And this will solve a lot of the problems. It's called good planning and having some care given, and the money spent on this. This is a huge problem in the whole city. It really is. On the west side, everywhere you go, if you want to do something and plant trees, which I believe that's a good idea, but we need to do one thing first before we plant another tree. We need to find out where all the laterals are. We need to identify all the laterals. We just think about these old neighborhoods. You have to do dye tests on their lines to identify where they're at. Because back in the day, they didn't put I think they can do it. They can identify them with some sonar technology today. It's a big problem. And I do intend on bringing legislation to the table that the tree board is funded every year and not begging and scraping for money. That really is, that's the shame of it. You want to be have the designation on your city as a tree city, but not putting an annual amount of money in there, a fixed amount. That's the shame. And we're gonna try to resolve that issue this year. Thank you. And but we still have to take care of these dangerous trees. And the other point of this, a lot of people don't even know that the trees that are in their, they think that are in their yards are in the right of way, because we haven't done a serious analogy of where these trees are at and doing a survey of the property. There's another part of bad planning. We don't even have people have a survey when they're going to build a garage. There's a lot of things that need to be rectified here. And as we move forward, I'm going to still be advocating these things to get done. Thank you.
Any other comments by council people? I have a couple comments. And I think the first issue in my mind, to try to manage trees, try to manage your tree canopy over the city, try to determine which trees are bad, which trees should be trimmed. The city, whatever we have to do, and I don't know what's been done by the city, besides hiring an arborist and firing an arborist in the same week or 2 weeks later for whatever reason. And I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm just saying, in order to organize things and get things going in a correct path for a city, is you have to have somebody to manage the program. And right now, we don't have anybody to manage this tree program. We have a street superintendent who's in charge of streets and maybe getting streets lined. But now he's got to go out and make a determination about a tree. I mean, I can make a determination if a tree's dead or not. And I can say, sure, let's cut it down. But whether to say, well, we can get it trimmed if we cut off this limb here in the crotch area, the tree will be okay. Because in this happened a week and a half ago in Gardena Playground. I got a text from the individual, and so did the mayor, and I sent it on to the park superintendent. But if folks know where the wash house is at Gardena Playground, and this limb fell through the night. It could have been from a storm that came through or what have you, but the limb fell right next to the wash house, and the limb was about 15 inches in diameter and was about 30 feet long. And, it could have been a lot worse than what it was. So when I called the park superintendent to let him know what took place, he said that he had been out at Oak Hills Playground looking at trees, and that there's trees that need to be trimmed up and cleaned up out there that have dangerous limbs hanging on them. So what my point is, and I know the mayor's here, that he could direct the park superintendent and Sean Smith, just like I told Sean and Ed Shin, they need to get together. They need to go out to the parks, survey all the parks, and whatever trees need to be trimmed, mark them trees, put a bow around or a ribbon around them, what have you, and let's get them cleaned up and get it over with before something dangerously happens to somebody that's walking underneath a limb like that. So yeah, number one, we need to hire an arborist. Number two, get the parks taken care of. And number three, if you're a resident and you think you have a dangerous tree on your easement or possibly on your private property and it's overhanging into the street, call Sean Smith, Street Department, and get it corrected. And if we need more money to put into this to make the situation safe, then the city council will look into that to get that done. Any other council comments? Having none, this ordinance will be held over for our next council meeting for third reading. Moving on to our first ordinance on third reading this evening by title only. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance on third reading by title only, creating Article 10 in Chapter 22 entitled Rental Inspection Program. And this is introduced by Ms. Zegas.
And does the author have anything that she'd like to add, which I'm sure she does?
Yes, I do. I was prepared to talk about this the last council meeting, but we didn't get this far. But we had a very productive meeting and a lot of landlords were there and some city council members were there as well. And we had, and planning, the inspectors were there as well. So we had a big discussion about this. And if you notice, the name of the ordinance has changed. And now it's called the Residential Rental Registration Ordinance. So we're just going to register the property. So what we talked about is this, that it's only 5 to 10% of the properties that are substandard, do not meet the minimum housing standards. And to have our staff, even with an additional person, inspect all the properties that are good, besides all the properties that are not good, it's just really an inefficient use of time. And we are going to be very much hurting for more inspectors due to all the building that's going to be going on in the next few years. So we had a really good discussion about that, and it just seemed very inefficient to be inspecting properties that are doing well, time, etc. However, we do want all the properties to register. So what I found out during this, whole build up to this is that only 40% of the rental properties approximately have been registered with the fire department. And the way they're registered, it's not really easily accessible. So if there is a fire going on, someone has to go to the office and open up the computer and go to an Excel file and look at the owners. That's really not efficient. So that is a big thing. We want everybody to be registered so that we have emergency contacts that is pretty local. And so we know who to get in touch with without having to do a lot of research. And it seemed to be very acceptable for people. It's going to cost $5 to register. And if you have multiple properties, everything that's in the same parcel still costs the $5. Multiple parcels are $5 each. And this is going to be combined with the fire registration. So we'll just have one registration combined together. And so that's it. And so an additional thing that the landlords will be benefiting from is that they are going to get a limited license with this registration to perform building maintenance work, to repair or replace things like toilets, light switches, fans, etc. So they can repair and replace them or their agent. So they can have somebody, do this work. So no new modifications, no extensions, etc. You can't just put heating in a new porch or whatever, but to just fix things that need fixing. So we're trying to say that you can do that without having a permit or an inspection, and up to the value of about $3,000, because at some point, where do you stop? I mean, if you're remodeling an entire house, we need to have the inspectors come take a look. But just to replace a toilet, replace a sink, a faucet, a ceiling fan, a switch, that you have the limited license to repair. So that is what we have so far in this. The registration tentatively would be open October and then due January 31st as the fire registration was. And that's kind of what's in this ordinance. So it's basically been stripped down totally. There is no inspection part to it. except for the fact that if somebody does report a property. So there are things that I would like to still work on that are not part of this, like an easier way for people to report substandard housing, and not only rentals, but all housing, right? And some technology to help that department, because I think the process needs to be worked on. So I plan to look into that and work on the process to make sure that we're following through on some of these, tickets that we've written and violations, et cetera. So I was going to ask, knowing all this, that we're not inspecting anymore, we're just registering and we're trying to get this organized. I would like to ask the council if we could table this till August 15th. I have a second workshop planned on the 26th of July. But again, I wasn't going to publicize this until I know that I can table it till August 15th.
I support that.
There's been a motion to table and a second. Madam Clerk, on the vote.
Ms. Zegas, when did you say the workshop was going to be? I'm sorry.
The workshop is July 26th, 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. Assuming this passes, that it's tabled because, we're going to discuss this, but all the changes made, so the inspections are gone, et cetera. So we have we have a motion to postpone till August 15th meeting.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Nay.
Ms. Tillman,
Nay.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Ms. Deitch,
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
and Ms. Zegas.
Aye.
That's 5 in favor and 2 opposed.
And Madam Clerk, where are we at here? Well, that's the end of the ordinances. Under new business, is there any new business? Any new business? Okay, unfinished business. The council has one appointment to the Urban Enterprise Board due to Mr. Kenny Fly resigning effective May 23rd, 2023. The term, who's ever not or gets the job, will begin immediately and expires on 12/31/2024. And the nominations are Cherie Wilson and Joseph Nelson. And if either one of them are here this evening, they are welcome to come to the podium and introduce themselves and tell us why they think they should be on the Urban Enterprise Association.
Good evening, Common Council. My name is Cherie Wilson, as you already know. I have over 25 years of experience in the construction industry. And the reason why I feel like I would be a decent fit for this is that through my experience and in my background, I have always, construction inspires growth. And I feel that with my background in contracts and with my, background in, I'm a little nervous here, sorry. But anyway, with my background, I've always encouraged growth through many means and, from design to construction to, and that. And so in that, when a client would come to us, many times we look at demographics and we look at, what can we do to help their business grow? And sometimes it is through means and methods of construction. Sometimes it was simply just, let's look at how your layout is, okay? So how I could apply that to this and how I can encourage small businesses that would be coming to the Urban Enterprises, helping and aiding them in things that they might not know that would be useful to help them. And then also how an Urban Enterprise also helps communities, helps neighborhood associations. And with those two things coming together, that brings our community together. And I have helped actually many small businesses in our area. Many people have contacted me just knowing that I have what I have for knowledge, and I've given them, free consulting. I've helped two manufacturing companies that were born out of Michigan City. I've helped along with incidentally, my landscaper. He wasn't registered with the city as a contractor. Now he's doing a lot of work here in our city. But anyway, so when anyone has come and asked for my help, and I've always been there to help them. Also, I have a somewhat working knowledge of the interactions of our city just from, years of being a citizen here and following in the footsteps of both my parents. So, who have had a major interaction with the city of Michigan City. They actually chose to come to Michigan City from another part of the country, just because they liked Michigan City so much. And so I feel at that time in my life that I need to start giving back. So that's why I feel like I'd be a good fit for Urban Enterprise.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wilson. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Wilson? Okay, thank you very much.
I believe Justin Nelson.
Yes. Mr. Nelson, go ahead. Mr. Nelson, go ahead. Mr. Nelson, go ahead. It sounds asked to mute. Mr. Nelson, if you're there, go ahead.
Yeah, that far right.
Mr. Nelson, are you there?
Yeah. I don't think so. I speak something you did. He came on, he yelled. He has other hair on his spot. I can't.
Going once, going twice.
What do you think, Drew?
He's got on mute.
I believe you've given due diligence, we've asked him multiple times if you.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if there was another button you hit and all of a sudden you can hear them or, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to give them fair chance to respond back and give them enough time to whatever adjustments we had to make, if we could, to get them on. With that being said, we will now take the vote. Sherry Wilson or Joseph Nelson for the Urban Enterprise Board. And Madam Clerk, on the vote.
Ms. Tillman,
Nelson,
Mr. Dabney,
Nelson.
Mr. Mack,
Sherry Wilson.
Ms. Deitch,
Mr. Nelson,
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Sherry Wilson,
Ms. Zegas,
Nelson,
and Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Miss Wilson.
There's 4 votes for Mr. Nelson and 3 votes for Ms. Wilson. So Mr. Nelson won.
Okay, I want to congratulate Mr. Nelson, and I want to thank Ms. Wilson for putting her name in the hat and trying to get nominated and making your presentation. And your letter was excellent. And I'm sure that in the future you will be considered for other city boards. Okay. You got a great future ahead of you. So don't let this discourage you.
Oh,
Okay, all right. Okay, moving forward, nominations. The council has the following appointment to the Michigan City Social Status of African American Males. Term expires February 15th, 2023, and are all one-year terms. And the incumbent is vacant and it's with the ministerial associations. Are there any nominations from the council? Any nominations? Okay, moving forward. The Energy Systems Group Year 3 Performance Guarantee Savings Report for the City of Michigan City. No action was taken at the June 20th meeting, 2023 council meeting. And let me get my notes here that I have pertaining to this project. And I know there's been questions by other council members, and just to give a quick overview of this, and there is going to be a scheduled, let me just begin by saying that there's going to be a scheduled council workshop being set up right now by the council, by Brad Minnick, and with ESG, with their primary players in this contract, and they'll be able to answer questions that we may have as far as the annual contract review or performance review, I guess you'd want to call it, which we were all given a copy of, and the city was supposed to respond back by June 20th. But in speaking to Amber and the mayor, Brad Minnick, we had a meeting about a week ago, I think it was, and we got a hold of ESG, asked for an extension, and there's been discussions that there are concerns about this contract, and especially about the performance measurements on what they say that they have as far as what's in the report versus what the city might think, we have, and some other questions about the contract. So we met, it was actually July the 10th. Mayor Perry was there, Amber LePage was there, Brad Minnick, myself. Asked for a 30-day extension, and we got it. It's actually, the extension goes all the way to August the 8th. So that gives us a couple weeks, almost 3 weeks to talk and make a decision, what we want to do. But anyway, this whole program started back real briefly back in 2018 is when it first started putting in different devices, heating devices to save energy, the solar panels at the police station, solar panels at the senior center, solar panels at the Cleveland Fire Station, put a new roof in at Central Maintenance or Services, one of the buildings. LED lighting throughout the city was taken into account. Furnaces, air conditioning, this was all surveyed and followed through by a engineer from DLZ. I have his name here. Oh, yeah, his name is John Kirk or Jack. Yeah, John Kirk from DLZ. And he is actually the gentleman that reviewed the performance letter that we got the first year, and he looked at the letter, the packet last year for verification that the city was getting what they're supposed to be getting out of this contract. So it wasn't somebody just sitting in an office signing it and sending it on. There's actually, we had this gentleman, and this gentleman was the engineer that worked with ESG the first 2 years of putting in and implementing all this equipment, so he could verify that it was all done properly in those 2 years. And then the contract started started with a performance base in 2020, and now 2021, 2022. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the performance in 2022, last year. And the financing was through the Bank of America, and it fell under what's called a green program for municipalities, which was 1% below the prime interest rate. Okay. And then the guaranteed savings, and it's all in the guaranteed energy savings performance contract. It says the guaranteed savings in energy is $3,068,000, $68,478. And that's over this 18-year period. And it also including reductions in related capital expenditures in the amount of $1,746,825. Okay, and so the price of the original contract was $3,053,284. So, like I said, the workshop's going to be scheduled here as soon as we can get the key people from ESG to do a Zoom meeting with us, and we'll have all our key people here. And what I'm going to encourage the council people to do is to get any questions that you may have pertaining to financing of it, the energy savings, any questions you have, you can get them to Brad, you can get them to me, and we will try to get them on the table and sent to ESG so they have knowledge of what we're going to be asking them at this Zoom meeting. We're not going to be spending a lot of time burning up valuable time. Okay, so we have that. Those are my comments on that particular subject. Like I said, if you have any questions or if you want to ask me a question now, of course you have that freedom, but that's what direction we've decided to go in with that. Any questions? Councilman Probolinski?
So what I'm listening to is this program, are we saving money or is it just coming out to be a draw from the initial bond issue that was given at what, 3.8 million? In the life of the savings would be 3.7 million. And I mean, that's the way it sounded to me. It was more or less a draw.
Well, I'm not going to say it's going to be a draw because we have to get all the numbers put together. But just by looking at, the contract survey that all the council members got to review, and hopefully everybody did look at it. Right now they're showing us savings that we supposedly had this year, and that's why we have to get the engineer from DLZ or Mr. Minnick to sit down and try to break this down to see how ESG is
formulating their worth.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Dabney, do you have a question?
Yeah,
Okay,
just
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I was just gonna make the comment real quick that it, hopefully after all the debt for the project is paid back, eventually the savings will continue on down the line. So we will see the savings continue on after, the initial price and everything is paid back. So hopefully we will see that in the future.
Yeah, and that's a good point. But the key to it is take, for example, like with these all the solar panels that were installed and some of this other equipment that was installed. We have to make plans for somebody to go out there and take a look at these solar panels to make sure that they're still working properly. Yeah, I mean, and there may be a way that, it's calculated already. So, let's not think negative thoughts and be shaking heads right now. Let's wait to see what ESG has to see about this. And then, and if they say, in the 18-year period that this program is set up for, that, yeah, we can still calculate out the savings of $1.5 million. I would still take a savings of $1.5 million over a savings of nothing and not doing anything. I think that's what how the council was looking at this when we originally got involved with listening to the program and signing on to the contract. All right, so we will have that workshop and move forward with that. Okay, and comments from the public, and close your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Good evening, Ernie Hallahan.
Name and address.
Ernie Hallahan, 302 Gladys Street, Michigan City. On the inspection thing that you changed, I agree with you. I had a renter move out and I'm getting it prepared for a new renter. And I did find one little fault that I caught. The smoke detectors, I don't know if people are aware of. I took it to the fire station. It still worked. I was checking the battery, but I still took it down and took it to the fire station. And lo and behold, they have expiration dates on them. So they give me 2 new ones. So if you don't know about it and you're checking your battery, check and see if it says if it's expired or not. But they do last a long time because I think that one's probably been in that house 20 years. I've had it at least 20 years, and I pushed the test button and it still worked, but I still changed it. And as far as trees go, my area where I live was a swamp at one time. It's all filled in there. For some reason, that one yard, all the big oak trees are dying off. I don't know what's going on over there. I did have, I think, roughly 4 in my yard and my rental next door that I had to take out. It's quite expensive to have trees removed anymore. But when they die and get ready for their turn, it's it. Those trees I'm speaking of have all dead limbs. There's no leaves on them at all. And there's no, I mean, you can trim a tree to an extent, but you cannot cut the top out of a tree. It will kill it. I know that from Stan Knoll when he was trimming mine. I asked him to take a top out of one of mine, and he says, no, you can't, because it will kill a tree. So you can't do that. You can trim off some of the limbs, but that's about it. But with my area, I have issues with big black carpenter ants. That's what's destroying all the trees in my area. That's what got to mine. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ernie.
And Nancy.
Nancy Molnar, 107 K Lane. I want to just add on to the smoke detector. I hope that carbon monoxide detectors have also been considered and included. Yeah, it's a dangerous situation. There was a write-up in the newspaper in the Northwest Indiana Times not too long ago about a young person that almost died, but luckily they received professional medical services in time to be revived. So I know Councilwoman Ziggis, I did mention this to you before as something to be included in this particular ordinance. I want to follow up on an announcement that I made a little bit earlier. Drive Clean Indiana's annual conference and expo is happening here in Michigan City at the Blue Chip. And this is a wonderful opportunity to actually become exposed to and learn more about electric vehicles and electric vehicle chargers. It's happening Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. It's going to be at the Blue Chip Stardust Event Center. There's going to be an exhibit hall. Last year they had about 6 electric vehicles inside that you could look at. You could sit in, you could have your picture taken in them. You can attend educational breakout sessions. Sue Harrison, who is the Director of Transportation for Michigan City Area Schools, has often presented at this conference, and the Michigan City Area Schools and their propane bus replacement program has been highlighted. You can explore a variety of the indoor exhibits. Besides the cars, they have many other items to look at. You can network the night before at the reception and also celebrate the award winners for the year. Sustainability Commission does have spots for 10 people to attend. So if you're interested in attending, please contact me and I will let you know regarding availability. Of course, commissioners come first serve. So my email is nancyforvision@gmail.com. So you can contact me that way to let me know if you're interested. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Yeah, Tommy Kolovic, 1316 Ohio Street. I just want to mention that I really enjoyed my going along with the members of the Michigan City Commission on the Social Status of African American Males and the 15 youth that went to the DuSable Museum. I kind of tagged along, paid my own way, kind of helped guide them through how to get there and back. You know, no stranger going to Chicago. I've taken mine up there all the time when they were growing up. So I just really enjoyed it. It was really educational. Can't really how they treated people. It's kind of a sad statement on humanity, if you ask me. But I want to thank the LaPorte County Council for allocating. I think they gave us $5,000. I think we got all left. I'd like to do something else with them. Like maybe in October, take them to the Universal Circus, which is held in that same area. I also want to talk about what Chief Worker talked about, their bicycle giveaway. I don't understand what they do about that is they get all the unclaimed, unconfiscated bicycles that they keep in the storage. And they started this maybe about 6 or 7 years ago when 2 police chiefs ago, Mark Swisek was the chief and Chris Yagelski ran this. What they do is they used to auction them off, have like a cash as you go sale. And it was always the same person buying the bicycles, and he'd load them up in his van and take them over to Chicago and sell them at his flea market. What they started doing is they actually take the bicycles over to the Indiana Department of Corrections facility on the west side, and they actually have a program where the men that are housed there actually refurbish and remodel the bicycles, and then the police take them back, and that's when they give them away to any child that wants them. I think that's a really cool thing that the police started doing when Mark Swistek was the chief. I also want to mention, let me find the photos. Kind of lost here. Here we go. This past Thursday, it was marked the 5th-year anniversary of the Inferno that did destroy the Pullman Standard rail car shops. It was July 13th, 1973. I think we all know the history and all that. It's very well documented. The car shops had closed years ago, and the Winskys bought it, and then they were converting it over to warehousing, and they had the contractors in there cutting support beams and And what they were doing, they all went home about 3:30. Their shift ended, and they left some bolts smoldering up, and that's what caused the fire. By 11 o'clock, by the time they saw the smoke and the flames, it was just too late. And they said if the winds weren't blowing out of the south, probably we'd have had another great Chicago fire in our hands. So, of course, we know 10 years later that, contaminated. Years later, that was sold to the developers that put in Lighthouse Mall. So I think that was a very significant part of our history. We do have photo of what the car shops look like. I think this picture was taken by Bill Swedenberg. I think we've all seen his photos in the News Dispatch and over the years. I mean, he was like the ace of spades of photographers, showed a lot of our history. This photo here was taken by a gentleman by the name of Stuart Micker the night of the fire. This all came off the website monon.org. And I just wanted to mention that, and I just wanted to say thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Klavik.
Hi, Brian Gross, 830 West 6th Street. I'm passing around some pictures there. I've mentioned this before, but since the last meeting, somebody has again busted windows at 204 Willard Street, which again is a city-owned building. The picture shows the glass is still on the sidewalk, has never been cleaned up. The city does not maintain that building. Again, I still have questions whether he's even structurally sound after that car hit it a couple of years ago. Again, the window's been busted for years. Somebody just rebusted. It's never been boarded up. It's never been had the sharp glass cleaned out of it or anything else. Something else I noticed Monday night driving home is it looks like there's another illegal mobile home park or motorhome park, I guess I should say, in the city of Michigan City. Motorhome parks are actually zoned in only certain areas, and yet we have one that just cropped up in the Outlet Mall parking lot.
Where's that?
Outlet Mall motorhome.
No, I know, but where at?
Outlet Mall parking lot. There is the Paranormal Cirque going in, and there's now a motorhome park in there, which the city says, yes, you can have one motorhome on a lot for 2 days without a permit, but after that, you can only have it for 15 days with a permit, only one, and only twice a year. These have already been there over the 2-day period, and we're not talking about one, we're talking about dozens. Also, it appears there's an illegal structure going up. The city code I've actually got some of it here.
Oh.
I guess on the motorhome, if you want to refer to it, it's 74-31, 74-34 actually tells what the motorhome code is. And you have to go into the zoning maps to find out where it goes. 22-661 paragraph 3 states that for the purpose of this section, the term general building contractor, and building subcontractor shall mean and include any person who for a fixed sum, price, fee, percentage, or any compensation shall build, construct, alter, repair, add to or erect any building or structure within the city, ... It doesn't say temporary structure. It doesn't say permanent structure. They're putting up a huge temporary structure out there. And I can guarantee you the city hasn't required them to have permits, which the code says they can approve special events, but they have to follow all the other codes in the city code. They haven't required them to have permits for electrical or construction. They haven't required them to be licensed as contractors, which I've been fighting this, and I own my own property. I can't work on my own property. They're letting an outside company come in and do this without having to be licensed, and yet they're wanting me to be.
Okay, Brian, not to interrupt, but if you could.
Okay, and that's pretty much all I have to say. It's just, it just seems very discriminatory, especially being a taxpayer.
Okay, thank you. That's really interesting, the one about the old substation on Willard Ave. Now it's got a busted window and I saw the wall falling out and I keep hearing, yeah, somebody's buying it or what have you, but still it's a city-owned piece of property. And we're trying to encourage, but code enforcement's gonna go and write somebody up for whatever, but then the city-owned property, we turn our head to it, but we expect the neighbor across the street to maintain their property. Mr. Mayor, if you would please, could you see what the city can do as far as getting this building in somewhat decent shape so it's not an eyesore on the west side of Michigan City?
I certainly will, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else from the public?
I can talk again.
Good evening.
I wait till everybody else is done.
Absolutely. Hi there. My name is Dakota Euler, 718 Emma Street. I must apologize. I'm only a resident here for the last 7 weeks. So I'm unfamiliar, but I come from the city of LaPorte where if I have traffic or street issues that I have noticed that there's a traffic commission that I go to. So I don't know that this is the correct board that I would speak to. But at the intersection of 9th Street and Oak Street, just a few blocks away from here, there's a stop sign going north on Oak Street, but the other intersection of that, there's no yield signs or stop signs. I see that as a public safety issue. Also at the intersections of 8th and Springland, there seems to be some overgrowth at the property owner's place of residency or what exactly that is. I haven't done research, causing that intersection to be unsafe. I apologize if this isn't the right board for me to voice these concerns, but if it could be looked at. Also the street, I don't know if the street department does street painting, but Springland Avenue could use some street painting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. And I appreciate your involvement in Michigan City, only being here 7 weeks. Keep it up. Yeah, be involved. That's the only way you make things better. Okay, I appreciate it. And the mayor's here. Hopefully he took into what you said, and we can get that done. And the council, what's that, first ward? Is that in the first ward, I believe? Councilman Dabney, if you could maybe talk to that gentleman afterwards. We get that corrected for you. Okay, thank you.
He just brought up an issue that I have the same issue with. Risky Ave and Michigan Boulevard. As you know, when they come across north on Michigan Boulevard, that jogs over. Well, the paint lines are gone, and I was sitting there coming up to the red light, and a car come across, and he didn't jog over. He stayed in the turning lane that I was in, coming straight at me. I thought he was going to hit me head on, but there's no yellow lines painted there. I called the police and informed them that they need to get them lines painted so the people will stay over in their own lane. That's all I wanted to bring up.
Okay, thank you, Ernie.
Hi, Tommy Kolovic, 1316 Ohio Street. I'd like to read a statute. This is in response to what Brian Gross said about the 6th and Willard property. I looked at the Beacon site. The city actually acquired that property in 1994. That's back when Bob Beeler was the mayor. That goes back to the beginning of Paul Person, senior council member Paul Person, first tenure on the council. I've read this a couple of times before when the mayor was looking to get his raise. And I got just read a couple of subsections of this. It's Indiana Code 36-4-3. Powers and duties. The executive shall, and in Indiana, the executive of the city is the mayor. Subsection number 1, enforce the ordinance of the city and the statutes of the state. Under subsection 9, sign all bonds, deeds, and contracts of the city and all licenses issued by the city. Now that gives the mayor the authority over all the city-owned properties. The last 4 mayors, Mayor Well, we made that, they bought that from VFW and they made that in the West Side Police Substation. I don't like calling that's kind of an insult to the police, but the last four mayors, probably under Mayor Burleson, Mayor Oberly, Mayor Meeker, and now Mayor Perry, you've let that go to pot. Why don't you just tear it down, put an art sculpture, and maybe give it to a nonprofit and let them fix it up? That to me, that's reminiscent of the type of things you see when you go around and drive the neighborhood streets over in the city of Gary. No offense to Gary, I love Gary, but that's, Mayor, you need to take care of that. Thank you.
It's behind you.
Thank you, Mr. Klavik.
Rodney McCormick, 617 Union Street. I came here to speak about this enforcement of going into people's houses without and have to register their properties and all that. I just don't understand when we already have, the inspection office already have what they call the tenant landlord complaint form. It's been here forever. You can go in here, you can check if you have a problem with electrical, plumbing, heating, walls, whatever, so on, so on, so on. We don't need no more ordinances on the books. We don't even enforce what we already have. I find it kind of ironic that me and Paul Prespolinski was here one day and some of the language that's been changed in that ordinance kind of came from us, didn't it? And we sitting there and bringing up ideas and now they're running with it. This is something that should not take place. We already have it right here. This has been thought about, done while we're trying to reinvent the wheel, while we're trying to get more money out of the residents here. It's just not right. Earlier this week, I received phone calls. And again, we talking about enforcing the ordinances. This week, a man who was enforcing the ordinances, doing what he was supposed to do, lost his job. Nobody wants to talk about it. City council, nobody wants to talk about this. I don't want to get into too much of the personnel issue of it, but it's sad. If you go enforce the ordinance, no matter who it is, they should have to stand there and take the consequences. If they don't want to come in compliance, I don't care who you are. You should be fined. Right now, we can't even get people write a citation. They're being asked to take it away because they're friends with the mayor or somebody on the city council, or they're friends with me, or they're friends with somebody else. And they ask, hey, please take that away. This is wrong. You guys, you're making all these ordinances. How are we enforcing them? What are we going to do to enforce them? A man loses his job for doing his job. This doesn't make sense to me. Mr. President, I hope you look into this. We need to know if this is true or not. There's three sides to every story. Everybody's entitled to due process. I'll let the mayor speak for himself. I'll let the person who was terminated speak for himself whenever they feel like coming up to speak and say what they have to say. But as a citizen of this community, being here for 52 years in the first ward, I'm not going to tolerate it. And these people that's running for office, this is not a game or a joke to me. Showing up at meetings and just sitting in the audience and don't have nothing to say, it's not a game to me. I'm sick of this. And any city council members or any other elected officials that's running for office, leave my name out of your mouth. You want to hold somebody, you want to hold another candidate's hand, and you want to do that, that's fine with me. Do whatever you want to do.
Mr. McCormick,
but please,
if you could summarize.
Yes, please keep my name out of your mouth. Y'all know who I'm talking to. Anytime you want to debate me or have anything to say to me, make the forum, I will be there. I look forward to debating anyone. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public that hasn't spoken yet wish to speak? Okay, having none. Council comments. Councilwoman Zegas.
All right, I'm just going to reiterate, on July 26th, we will have a workshop at 6 p.m. here at the council chambers to talk about the registration program for rentals. There are no inspections, but I guess we have to get some information out there. I will have the ordinance at the time. I also have a second announcement. On August 1st, the right to make personal medical decisions will be taken away from more than half of Indiana residents. This will cost lives and will compromise the care of residents in a state already ranked one of the worst in health outcomes. All the efforts to attract economic development and new jobs just became much more difficult. A vigil to mourn the loss of human rights and the right to bodily autonomy will be held in front of the UAB, the You Are Beautiful statue, on July 31st at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Deitch.
Yes, I would like to announce that the Gun Violence Committee, comprised of myself, Councilman Don Privilinski, and Gene Simmons, will be having a committee meeting on July 24th at 6 p.m. in the EOC room. We have requested from the police administration data from the last 3 years on gun arrests, gun-related deaths, calls for shots fired. We also asked for an update on any technology updates from all of the technology that we have approved and through ARPA and through Riverboat. And then also just in conversations, we will send this over to all of our judicial officers within the county. They may not show up, but that's okay. But we want them to also understand that we have a low tolerance here in Michigan City for them releasing repeat offenders into Michigan City that are continually being arrested and let out on reduced bonds, on ORs, these plea agreements. We see people get out and immediately something else happens with that same group of people. And it's important for us as a council to send a message to the people that are putting them back into the streets of Michigan City that are continuing to do that. That is unacceptable. So we will have that meeting in the EOC, and we're looking for solutions, but also bringing forth some type of resolution to present to the court system in LaPorte County and these judges that are allowing them to come back and hold all of us hostage. It's a very small percentage, probably less than a 1/4% of the people in Michigan City, or even fewer. And those are the people that are continually getting out and doing the same thing over and over again. We just had a murder that occurred, but again, these are different groups of people that continue like a revolving door. And we continue to let them out right back into Michigan City. And if it's a system issue, we need to deal with those folks and tell them that they're not going to continue to do that to us, and figure out what we're going to do next as a council. Thank you.
Any further council comments? I have a couple comments, and I think it was the June 27th council meeting, and that's when we had the workshop about the garbage all over the city, the refuse, sanitation department, what have you. And at that council meeting, I requested from the trash inspector, or I guess what his title is, refuse inspector. Yeah, on how many violations were written for people spewing garbage out in front of their apartment buildings or houses or what have you, and not doing it the proper way. And so he sent me the information back. He sent me written copies of all the tickets written in 2022 and 2023. And now we, trying to get to the root cause of the problem, is what the root cause. The solution to the root cause was presented to the council of spending $250,000 on a truck to go around and pick garbage up around the city. That's not, and we never had this truck before. So if that's not the root cause, is to go out and buy another piece of equipment just to pick up garbage. The root cause is accountability, responsibility of people doing what they're supposed to be doing when you're getting paid by an employee, which is the city of Michigan City. So in 2022, there were 7 violations that were written on people that are dumping trash outside your house. 7 violations. In 2023, after we had our workshop here in June, up until that date, there were no violations written in the city of Michigan City. After that date, and in between the phone call when I talked to this individual, 3 violations were written for the first time in 2023 in Michigan City. But, so instead of honing in on that and holding responsibility and trying to come up with a game plan around that group, we want to spend $250,000 of your money on a truck that's going to resolve the issues that can be resolved without spending $250,000. So that has to be corrected and shown to the city council that we're making progress on getting this garbage cleaned up before I spend anything on a piece of equipment that's going to go around and pick up garbage. So then in the wintertime, if you got garbage sitting around, how's this vehicle going to get out? It doesn't have a snow plow. And it makes no sense. That truck's going to be sitting at the street department for 3 months, probably doing nothing. So I wanted to bring that point out to the city council, since we're the ones responsible for trying to spend this money. And I thought it was a great idea, tabling this ordinance. And I think it should stay tabled until we find out what's going on with this trash inspection, who's running what in the refuse department, and what the charging rate is going to be, which we said we were going to be informed by the city administration in July of what the charging rate was going to be for people to call the refuse department to get their trash picked up on a special means. Okay. So we need to get that information. Number 2, Mr. Ernie. Oh, there was Ernie right there. Okay. Because I know, Ernie, you brought this up at a council meeting back in April. And I took it to the Board of Works on the Woodland Ave Railroad Crossing and Risky Ave Railroad Crossing. Okay. And I'm just assuming that it's getting worse and worse and worse. And directed to the Board of Works. The mayor said he was going to write the C&O and try to get things moving. That wasn't done in the month of July. So it's been pushed to the month of August to try to get this letter done and sent to the C&O Railroad. Otherwise, what we're going to wind up here with is another Ohio Street and another Tilden Ave, where it's going to be closed down for 2 months because it's so dangerous that nobody wants to even travel it anymore. So I hope we can get that resolved here quickly. And finally, I want to thank a friend of mine, and I generally don't mention names, but I'm going to mention her name. Personal friend of mine, her name's Mary Knopp. She was the next door neighbor, and she's moved. But anyway, and what Mary did, because she wanted to take things into her own hands, because she's an avid golfer. So out at the North Course, she golfs the North Course all the time. Well, she volunteered to the golf department to go out there and weed whack underneath the trees, weed whack along the fences, and do maintenance work out at the golf course for no charge to make things look better. And I want to thank her for volunteering, getting involved, and taking things into your own hands, sometimes that you got to do and make things look better. Then the other thing that Mary's done, she's brought it to the attention of the mayor, she's brought it to the attention of the park superintendent, and brought it to the attention of the harbor master, as far as the walkway going out to the pier, keeping that clear so people can, senior citizens, wheelchair, mothers with strollers, what have you. So you can walk out to the pier and not be walking in a foot of sand. So she stays on top of that. And since she's got involved, that's gotten cleaned up. And also the parking lot in Washington Park, when all the sand sits around the curbs and everything like that. Yeah, the park department finally got that cleaned up. And I think that was thanks to Mary. So I told her I was going to mention her name. I hope she's not embarrassed, but I just think when things go like that, to get things done in the city, it needs mentioning. Okay, any other council comments? Having none, is there, Councilman Paul Przybylski?
Yes, I know you covered a lot of stuff, Don, so I'll try to make it quick.
We got plenty of time. It's only 9. We got another 45 minutes.
Must be tired.
Well, I don't really want to do that. Individuals of people been here for a while, and this thing that you're talking about with the garbage is that it is really a fiasco. It really is. And I want to tell you and make a small example is that I looked at a property and I called about it, and I called the inspection department about it and the sanitation department. And I'm not going to say who said this or who said that, but the thing that I took away is that those two departments are not working together. They're not sharing information, and that there needs to be some serious discussion on what I call the big T. You know what the big T is? It's called teamwork. And that is what's lacking here. And that the amount of money it's costing us is, and I think I got this pretty much nailed down, and with these people who I'll call the renegades, all right, that are out there dumping their garbage all the time. Well, I got told that they do keep track of these landlords, and they know the good ones from the bad ones. And that's why some of them aren't getting tickets. And I'm going to myself, what is going on here? So you put all this information together and people are not working together, but also the ordinance needs to be specifically changed in directing those people how to interact. That's what we got to do here. And I couldn't believe it. And that's truly the problem. And we can solve this whole issue. We don't have to buy that truck. Mm-hmm. We don't have to buy that truck. It's called a lack of leadership. That's what it's called. But as my brother Don said, he investigates things, and so do I. And I will tell you that when you have to investigate and people are giving you that input, it's not my problem. It's not my problem. It's not, well, whose problem is it? Because it's on my lap and somebody's got to resolve it. So anyway, I think that we need to have a meeting, and I'm going to be critical for once in my career, is that we spent a heck of a lot of time on this one ordinance. And I think more time than I've seen on many, many ordinances come before us on this council and before. And I would really like to know how that even got started and where it got started, how much the legal fees would have been involved with it than on any other ordinance. Because the real big problem we got right now is this garbage problem. Because it's costing us a heck of a lot of money. A heck of a lot of money. And when I'm talking about leadership, it's in the staff of these departments. And I think we can all figure it out where it's at. So remember the big T, and maybe we'll get something done. The team. Thank you.
Council members, any other comments? Sir, I just have the gentleman in the pink shirt from LaPorte. Yeah, I just have a comment because you asked if this was the right forum, to discuss your items like with the traffic sign and what have you. The council members are here and they should get involved with, resolving the issue, but that's a Board of Works issue, and they meet every other Monday at 8:30 in the morning right here. So if you can make it, fine. If not, you can call me at home if you want to, and I'll give you my phone number here before you leave. Okay? All right, you're welcome. All right, with that being said, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn. Meeting's now ended.